by Alan K. Alan K. Alan K. in early 1960s. Early 1960s. The concept of object into computer programming was introduced by Alan Kay in the early 1960s. The word object into computer programming was introduced by Alan Kay. What is an object in computer programming? And actually, the concept of object-oriented programming came from this topic only. That you will learn in OOPS how it is. The word object and the purpose of object in computer programming was introduced by Alan Kay in early 1960s. And technically, what is an object and how this object is configured, how the object is configured and how the object is handled. And what is this object type in our Typescript? Let's see. Actually, the purpose of this object, so why he introduced the concept of object, we need to know about that. Let's see. So actual in early 1960s, so Alan Kay, when he was working in his project, so the project which was a desktop based application, so which contains a lot of UI logic and data. He was working on an application. And what is the concept was actually, so Alan Kay was working on his programming. That means he was working on his programming. And one problem he got is he was designing and working on an application. He was designing an application. And in that application, he have data. He have data to deal. And he have function to handle. Functionality, data and functionality. So he need to deal with a lot of data and functionality. Now what happened is the data and functionality are both configured inside the application. And important, the data is independent and the functionality is independent. Data and functionality both are independent. That means all the functions are separate. And all the data is separate. That means data don't have the relation with the functions. So data is separate, functionality is separate. Then it is very difficult to handle a function for specific data. It is difficult to handle a functionality for specific data. So that was the major problem. So it was he was facing. For example, suppose an application have product. Suppose we have an ID is equal to 1 and we have some price is equal to some price, and EID, this is employee ID, is equal to some 1, and it is salary is equal to some salary. Now he have some functionality. Suppose total is a function. This total function is price into quantity, like this. And there is another function, print employee. That means we have functions and we have data. And actually, this is data. This is data. And these are the functions. These are the functions. The problem here is all are together at one place. All are together at one place. Now it is problem in separation concerns. That means now price, this price and ED, they doesn't belong to each other. The salary and this price doesn't belong to each other. Then LNK, he introduced a concept called object. He introduced a concept called object. And the purpose of object is an object is used to encapsulate related type of data. An object is used to encapsulate related type of data. That means related type of data and the functionality is combined and kept at one place, and that is what they call as object. An object comprises of data and logic, related type of data and logic. That means suppose price and ID, they belong to product. Then product type data is kept in one object. Employee type data is kept in one object. In another object, product related functions and products related data is kept in one object. So the main purpose of object was to configure and create and all related data at one place. That is the concept of object. That means in simple terms, you can say that object is combination of data and logic. An object contains data and logic. Related type of data and logic. That means the data and logic that is related to specific functionality, specific module is kept in an object. So the main purpose is to cleanly separate the data and logic of different modules and keep them in separate locations. This is the concept of object actually. So this was introduced by LNK. LNK introduced this concept in early 1960s actually. So after he introduced the concept of object, that means the main purpose is nothing but object comprises of data and logic. Object comprises of data and logic. And very important is data is stored in properties. Data is stored in properties. And logic is defined by using functions. Data is stored in properties and logic is defined by using functions. So technically object comprises of related type of data and logic. That means it separates the data and logic of every module in an application. That is actually the concept of data. Now, after he introduced the concept called object, then two more people that I will tell you later, Christian Nygaard and Johann Ole. These two people introduced the concept of reusing the object in an application. These two people introduced the concept of reusing object in an application without rewriting the object. That means the same object